Welcome to the Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast.
All right, folks, how's it going? My name's Chris Weber. I had an opportunity to be involved with the WarriorGMR Foundation a while back. I went to the summit in DC. I was a participant in their outreach program with one of their members, going through a really rough time. So I've kind of been involved in the background ever since. I mean, that was about 4 years ago. So everything was very adolescent then. Um, I am I was in the Navy for 6 years. I was in from 2008 to 2014. I was a SWCC, which is a Special Warfare Combatant Craft Crewman. Graduated in class 6-1. After I got out, I had some injuries that really it was hard to deal with and become a civilian, be fully employed, maintain a marriage, be a good father. All of these things were kind of created my almost, I would say, downfall. Um, at one point in time, I was homeless, I was jobless, and about 5 years of just grit and hard work. I'm employed full time. I have a second job bouncing now. I own a home. I spend 50-50 time with my kids. And a lot of it, it wasn't all just being a participant in this gaming community, but it was certainly very helpful, especially going through all the stress and trauma. Video games was my way of focusing energy into not necessarily extremely productive, but not unproductive.
Well, we really appreciate that intro, and I will tell you that you are the guest that a lot of people have been waiting for.
Oh,
Um,
really?
oh yeah, you're one of us, right? Or you're one of them. If I'm on the outside looking in at what this organization was designed, created, envisioned for,
Right.
is you, right? And so it's not just my story as a host. I'm little less relevant or some of our staff, but here we are with you. It's fascinating, and I think April, I'm going to let you get the first crack at this if you want. I mean,
Absolutely.
the
Thank you
connections
so
here are
much.
amazing.
I'm chopping at the bit, as you can see. It's an absolute honor and delight to get to talk to you, Chris. And
I appreciate it, April.
one of the things that I think your story will really resonate with people is the fact that gaming is not just a distraction. Gaming can be traction to something better in terms of mental health, in terms of wellness, in terms of connection to your family and friends around you. I was wondering if you could talk to that a little bit. Like how did you use gaming as a tool for growth and as a tool to reintegrate into the civilian world?
Yeah, so one of the two concepts that I've really come to terms with is, like, not I don't want to say that tunnel vision, but when we're in the military and we're deployed, um, it's front sight focus. We have one specific job. We don't have to worry about anything else. We conduct that job, and it's almost like a primal instinct that it seems like once we get out of the military, like all of that is gone. And then we just have all of this scattered, bills, house payment, um, friends, family, and then it seems like we're almost blinded by just how much is going on that we actually have to worry about now. Um, Gaming is one of those avenues where I can be distracted. I can focus on something that I really enjoy. I can communicate with friends while doing it. A lot of games are, team focused, and like that's huge. When I got out, I was super lonely. I was going through a lot, and I didn't connect with my high school friends like I did before I left. And honestly, I just kind of become a loner. But video games, I didn't really play video games at first, but a few years down the road, and I was getting back into it, and I I make friends, through video games that I still talk to today. And even if we're not playing video games together, like I'm still talking with them, whether it's Facebook or text or whatever. So that, and it's like anything, video games, you have to treat it with respect. You can't over divulge. You can absolutely waste your time at it. I think that that's important to acknowledge that, it is a stress reliever. It is a community platform. Like, it's a lot more than just sitting in front of your TV in the old days playing N64 for 9 hours,
Absolutely. Can I ask what games you are playing?
Okay, so right now I'm playing World of Warcraft.
I saw that shirt.
The new expansion just came out, so I've been putting some time into that on when I got some free time. I've been having a blast with it, actually. I've been playing for like almost 20 years now. That's been my game. Play other, I'll dabble in other stuff, but right now that's my jam.
That's fantastic. I have a friend who did her PhD on teamwork within World of Warcraft, and
Oh my
sort of
gosh.
the battles from the Alliance, or like what makes a person join the Alliance versus.
Yep. There's so many studies on that game. It's actually pretty funny.
Mhm. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, Chris, there's so much to this. But first, let's explain to folks what you were doing while you were in Special Warfare Combat Crewman, correct?
Combatant Craft Crewman, right.
Combatant Craft Crewman. Okay.
It is it's a small boat unit within the Navy. It's part of Naval Special Warfare, so SEALs and SWIC. Primarily, it is kind of a transportation platform. There are multiple jobs within the job, though. I mean, we have JTACs. I was a UAV pilot, also an engineer. So we had a lot of different avenues. We have two types of teams. We have inner water, like river on, and then we have coastal teams. So I was on a coastal team in San Diego at a SBT-12. I did 2 deployments to the Middle East with them. And man, had a good time. I wish, it's kind of weird. I wish I stayed in, and but life goes on.
Yeah. Well, 5 years after, you'd be like, I wish I hadn't stayed in, so like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So you can't fault yourself. A lot of people do that.
Right.
But so can you just tell folks like how badass that job is? I mean, and please like indulge a bit, because our public, and a lot of people watch who have no military experience, like this is a serious job, people, like
Oh yeah.
serious. So
It
if you
is.
could just kind of just dress that up for us.
I'm not great at it, but I'll give it a go. So, heavy weapons. So I was a 50 cal gunner. We had Mark 19 machine guns. We had twin 240s. When I was in, the craft is phased out, but we had a Mark 5 at the time, which is a little over an 80-foot vessel. 450 cals on it. I mean, and then you got 22 SBT 22, which is the SOCAR. And holy smokes, I mean, you're talking, I think, 8 weapon platforms on like a 38-foot boat, 50 cals, grenade launchers, 240s, the GAU, which is I think it's, I want to say 5.56 or 7.62 machine gun, the Gatling gun. I mean, yeah, firepower is our defense, because
Go ahead, narrate. Keep going.
You look at it, you're fighting on the water. There is no cover. So firepower is your defense. Like, so you just strap as much firepower as you can on a boat, basically. And it's hair raising. VBSS was a lot of work, which is what visit, board, search and seizure. So taking ships, even go plats like oil platforms. Yeah, they certainly had a lot of work. Iraq with SBT-22 was actually that was nerve-wracking to hear some of those stories. It is a legitimate force for sure.
Pretty awesome. So what you're seeing here on the screen, folks, is just the training. I mean, this isn't even like real ops.
Yeah.
So how challenging was the actual training, and then what did you come out of that with?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, training was the most brutal thing I've ever done. It surpassed doing our workups, deployments. As far as physically demanding, mentally demanding, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. A lot of folks quit in water. We do a lot of swimming tests, buddy tows, or just not necessarily drown proofing, but putting yourself into very uncomfortable situations under the water. A lot of folks quit during that. I was very fortunate. I grew up in basically with Shasta Lake in my backyard and a pool, and grew up swimming, and I was really comfortable in that portion of selection. And a cool snippet. So my class proctor, instructor Belcastro, he was from my hometown. So I got a little extra attention when I went through selection course. So he definitely made sure that I earned the pin. It was a good time though.
Pretty incredible, I gotta say. I've seen a lot of training and videos, and been in a lot of training. And I mean, these folks take the cake. I mean, they're the ones who come and rescue the SEALs many times, right? Like,
Yeah, that's one of
yeah.
the, yeah, QRF did about a month-long deal on deployment with that. Yeah, one more thing about, it's really fun to talk about this stuff sometimes because you remember things that you just completely forget. But I remember after selection course, we're wet and sandy for weeks at a time. And I remember feeling like ants were just crawling all over my body, that I was just getting eaten up alive, right? Well, it's the sand gets embedded in like your pores, and that's what causes that irritation. And oh my good, yeah. I mean, it's a brutal selection process, that's for sure.
Can I
It's
ask you,
incredible what you went
so
through it.
one of the things that we're looking into with the VA is creating a game that helps address post-traumatic stress disorder.
Hmm.
And one of the conversations is, are the games like CSGO that have the real guns that are modeled after real guns, is that triggering or is that calming?
No, I stay away from shooting games actually. They frustrate me. Um, it's, to me it's unrealistic. It's a video game, and a lot of folks really enjoy it, which is fine. But for me, I actually tend to stay away from the shooting games. Um, I forget what it's called. I'm actually going to try something with the VA here shortly with the VR headset. And the way that it was shown to me is that it's more of like a 15-minute vacation. You can explore a beach and like a whole area that's maybe an island or something, tropical island, and it kind of has like a guided meditation through it. So I'm hoping to be starting that here soon, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. I think I'm like a guinea pig for that.
Yeah,
That's fantastic to hear.
yeah. The Honorable McDonough mentioned that at the summit, right? Is that what
Yeah,
turned you on
I
to
think.
it, or were you?
Yeah, so I mean, I was just doing a regular thing at the VA, and I was talking about the DC trip, and I think that is how it came up. Yeah, and they were like,
That's
"Oh
cool.
yeah, actually, we have like 3 or 4 headsets here. We're trying to introduce to people," and I was like, oh, "I'll try it. Sounds good."
That's
So I'm
amazing.
interested. Oh, sorry, April.
I was just going to say, thank you, Ken. I was going to say that one of the So as they asked what we would do, my thought was build a game that's sort of a cross between World of Warcraft and Cyberpunk, where there's the worlds that you can explore, there's people you can run into and people you can talk to, but there's also guilds and people who have your back that you can connect with. People
Yeah.
like you in world there's people have people who've known each other for 20 years and have
Yeah.
been part of their lives for 20 years. So I think that community aspect is one of the things
Community.
that I would recommend. But what would you recommend if someone said, all right, we need you to build us a game that addresses post-traumatic stress disorder? What would you?
Oh my goodness. Team building. I think getting people to communicate about it is probably the first step. So I don't know what genre or, I like high fantasy. But I think team building exercises, avenues to communicate with each other, that's probably like the first step.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Mhm.
It's very interesting. We're in the talks right now with about all this stuff. And so, April, it's a good point. And Chris is a great suggestion. I don't think that we specifically talked about that yet. But we know it was like a certain topic that we have to build community, but we really need to like kind of focus in on that. But so one idea that was tossed around is to flip over like some of the games that trigger I don't either like the first person stuff for the same reasons as you. I've had all that, I'm good. But if we created a game, right, that was marketed to address PTS and triggers, you have the stimulus, right? You have the routine, you have the reward, you have all that stuff, right? So like if we can go in and advertise a certain game with a certain kind of scenario, what if you were a first responder inside of a first person shooter? So you're kind of in that environment, but you're there to help rescue and maybe talk people out of that through a scenario based kind of environment. What
Yeah.
would be your opinion on that?
It sounds like exposure therapy, which, is actually really profound. I support it.
Very interesting. Okay. Yeah. So enough getting free developmental advice from Chris. So in this training, in your deployments, you had a lot of experience, a lot of tough things that happen, and you decided, what was the deciding factor for you to leave in 2014?
The amount of time that I saw my kids. So we are training. NSW is unique in the way that we are training the entire time. We have our own island in San Diego that we would go to and train. We would go out of state all the time. And then our deployments at that time were generally extended 2 months from our 6-month deployment. And I remember my daughters were, I think, 3 and 5 by the time I was getting out, and I had months of time actually with them. And then I got hurt, so it would just all coalesced into, all right, it's time. We'll try and make it in the civilian world.
I see that it's a tough subject. I understand that. And if we go anywhere that you'd rather not go, just hey, we're definitely cool. Everyone has their boundaries and we respect all of them, Chris. So
Yeah.
feel free. I am interested though. So you had the 2 daughters, you left, and then it seemed like in your story that you went downhill.
Yeah. So I found myself in a wheelchair, and this is all within like a year-long period. So wheelchair, going through a divorce, losing my kids, losing my house, and being unemployed, all within like the space of a year. And I mean, it was just brutal. I had some scars from the military that I needed to work through, but at the same time, I had to survive in an aspect, and it just seemed like my process took me a lot longer than I feel it should have, but I had just so much healing to go through. I had an ego to resolve. And just kind of learning that you can't just rely on people to give you handouts and help you through it. Like, one of the things my dad said, and I love him for it, but he's like, you can't expect anybody to come save you. Like, you've got to do it yourself. And it took me a long time, but I did it, and that's what I can be proud of.
And a lot of people forget too, even though it was 9, 10 years ago, the system was absolutely different than what it is today. They didn't have virtual reality headsets. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, people were screaming at the top of their lungs on the awful transition from active duty to VA, DoD to VA to civilian. Like, it was atrocious back then. And this
It,
is a symptom, right? I mean, this is an
yeah,
outcome.
like 2014, 2016, I was waiting 6 months in between appointments and operations and physical therapy. I ended up actually going through a nonprofit for physical therapy to start walking again, because the VA at that time was just so overburdened that I couldn't wait 6 months to a year to see somebody.
It was awful. I know. I got out in 2002, the first time, and I waited 2 years. I mean, I think it was maybe even 3 years for my first VA appointment. It was terrible. So,
Yeah.
imagine 12 years and the improvement is 6 months. Like, are you kidding me? And so, what we have to realize, folks, if you're tuning in, is just the VA is doing a very good job right now, the best it's ever done. Doesn't mean that it's meeting the mark, right?
Yeah.
But we have an entire 20-year period of people who got out post 9/11, right? I was one of the first people to get out of the military post 9/11. And we have all of these folks who are still, like, have suffered the ill effects of that system having been totally just abandoning them. And it pains me for us to hear this. But if it's okay, I would like to explore a little bit, because you would think with all that training, the video we watched, you're a badass, you can handle anything, but yet the house of cards is falling down. Are you able to talk a little bit about what you had to do to get on the upward trajectory that might be able to help folks who are in the same similar situation?
Yeah. I think getting a handle on depression was a huge one. Man, because it's so complex. Everybody goes through a breakup. Trauma is different for everybody, but resolving it is definitely a priority. For me, I bottled a lot of stuff up. I ignored a lot of personal red flags. It just took me a little longer to get a handle on things. Yeah, I never really talked. I never really say I'm a badass or anything. I put my pants on one leg at a time like everybody else. But even though I had a lot of training in mental health and mental toughness, going through all of that at once, I think would be hard on anybody. It doesn't matter if you're a 20-year SEAL, that's tough for anybody. And I think that that's a good point of view for anybody that's going through really hard times. Yeah, it is tough. And but I would hope that acknowledging going through the struggle is worth it. And I think, in my point of view, God has a plan for everybody. Now, would I be able to handle the things that I handle now if I hadn't gone through what I went through? Probably not. That's all part of growing. And man, life is hard, but life is one of the most enjoyable things we have. I mean, sharing days with my kids is the best thing in the world to me. So it's worth it.
And you made that conscious choice. So many of us grow up without a father. Many people who have, completely non-military lives have a lot of those same challenges that you mentioned about being overwhelmed by too many options, being not knowing exactly where, having things laid out. I think that's one thing that we can help with too, as Ken and I do the work to design these games. One huge thing we can help with is physical therapy. VR is fantastic for physical therapy. And
Mhm.
when people who are elite athletes like both of you, when the physical is down, everything's down. And it just is. And people have to acknowledge that, I think, and dealing with that in a more systemic way that builds a community is something that I'm excited about, and why I give my time to Warrior Gamer. I
Good.
told you my mom was a Marine she joined at 65 when there was no support for anybody, and particularly
Yeah.
not Black women. But I'm thrilled to be here and so thankful that you're doing what you do. And one of the things we have touched on in the past is, there's, the stats on suicide for folks who are coming out are just atrocious. And
Yeah.
one of our core missions is to address that through our Discord, through building community, through, and I would ask you, what do you think we could do to sort of help turn the tides when people are at their lowest?
Oh man. A game plan for sure. Because if you have nothing that you're striving for, I mean, then I think that it makes it really easy to lose sight on what is important in life. If you lose everything and if it feels like there's no hope, then I mean, that's where serious depression comes into play. A game plan is big. You got to have some obtainable goals and dreams, and start small and work your way up. It it took me a long time. That's for sure. What, 8 years? So
But you did it. I always say, trust the timing of the universe. The time it is what it is, and you did it. That's
yeah,
so
and
commendable.
not to say that it's not still a challenge. Every day it's still a challenge, but everybody's got to have those important things that they have in life that they continue to challenge it.
So, Chris, are you any good at the World of Warcraft?
I used to be. I'm pretty casual now. Filthy casual.
All right. When were you really good?
Definitely during Wrath, the original Wrath. I think we were server first ICC with the guild Reign back then. I have literally 20 years of experience only on a warlock. The only thing that I've never accomplished in WoW that I wish I did was a gladiator title. But, life goes and you got to put a lot of time into it to accomplish that. But I have fun just dabbling and leveling alts and doing raids casually. That's fine with me.
What are you really awesome at right now?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I'm always going to be good at driving and shooting guns, so I don't think that I'll lose that talent.
Do you do any like private security or like anything? Are you capitalizing on that
No,
skill?
just I just do bouncing at like clubs and bars, and I actually really enjoy it. I have fun doing that. It's not about being aggressive or physical. It's a very you have to be very conscious of what's going on. It is very difficult to deal with people that are angry and under the influence. But if you're super nice about it, a lot of the times I don't even have to verbally communicate. It's like a look and just a quick shake of the head, and that's all it takes. Um, Last weekend was pretty fun, but I'll leave it at that.
So, oh, go ahead, April. Sorry.
I was going to ask if you have entrepreneurial aspirations, and if you could tell us more about your hat.
Oh man. Okay, so this is 40 Degree Apparel. It's a good friend that I I think he was the class after me. His name's Sean. Oh, I wish anyway, he's on Facebook. I think it's 40degreeapparel.com. Just he's like Swick type of clothing. And then he also is an artist. So he's got some unique clothing options for folks that like that kind of style. For me, no, I used to be extremely ambitious. I'm just not anymore. I'm okay with that. Yeah, man, perfect. Uh, yeah, paintings. I have a couple of his paintings in my house. I mean, they're beautiful. They're, I think it's steel or aluminum plated. Just, oh, they look good. Yeah, but as far as me, no, I've had some ideas for starting a UAV company. I'm from California as well, a lot of wildfires. I see a huge market for using UAVs. I'm decently involved in the racing community here as well. So we had Tony Souza passed away, I think, last year in a helicopter crash. And so I definitely see a large avenue for using UAVs during these fires. But, those things are expensive, and I do not have the ambition to seek out that money.
You never know who's listening to us, though. There may be that there's a show on Disney, Jeremy Hawkeye from the Marvel movies has like 500 vehicles that he repurposes to people who want to do good in the world. So you never know who's listening.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got some ideas, but no, I'm enjoying, where I work right now. I work with friends and fellow veterans.
Right.
The other job that I do, my boss is my boss in two workplaces. So he does really good to me. He's a Navy veteran as well. Man, I'm definitely blessed to be working with those guys. So yeah, it's huge. They take really good care of me.
It's fantastic.
So, Chris, we've talked about, I think maybe once before on the show about the recipe for success. And so I think that going through your training and through ops, that the recipe. If you want to be really good or even the best at something, I think Chris knows the recipe. Like, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to put this time in, I got to put this dedication, I got to focus this much, and then I'll probably be the best person at this thing. Is this true?
So I have theories on it. Now there's individual success, but I think success really comes from a team aspect. And if you've ever worked within a team, then I think what's the word I'm looking for? The guys next to you are more important than you. And that's what builds team success. Individual success, now there's talent, but hard work and dedication. I don't know of any top tier athletes who will not tell you, I was in the gym the longest. I left after everybody else. I worked on myself even when we weren't training. Like, I think that's the recipe for success.
Yeah, maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger. He likes to talk about himself a lot, but I shouldn't talk smack. He might be a person on the show. But
you never know who's listening. And
you're 100%.
Ken actually came to Chicago for a triathlon. I had the joy of chasing him, trying to chase him around with my camera. And he walked in saying, I'm going to win this thing. And
confidence.
He did.
That's
and
awesome.
The visualization and all. I would throw that question right back at you, Ken, just because I think you got the secret sauce as well.
I mean, Chris hit a huge point where, in America, we're really individually focused. And I think that's why a majority of entrepreneurs fail, is they think it's a self-directed, self-initiated, self-run situation. It's not. You need to have a great team. And so for me, like, I know that, man. Like, I don't do anything. I don't even make a decision unless I run it through. Like, I have a board of directors. They tell me what to do. Like they've been here before and they go, Ken, do this, I do it. Like, and 100%. Like I don't not listen to them or do what they say. Board of advisors I have, and then I have mentors, and then I got coaches, right? So I have all these people. So I don't mess around. Like I try to get the best. I try to get someone who's lived in this area for decades, and this is the one thing they do. What have you done besides coach swimming? No, I haven't done anything. Okay, you're my lady. Like, let's go. So yeah, 100%. I think Chris, a lot of people they don't understand that. It's so important. Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the most frustrating things for me is seeing poor leadership. I have so much more respect for guys that are in leadership positions that are actual leaders, and they're not how's a nice way to say it, demanding. It was really weird getting into the civilian sector. My previous job was one of the worst workforce experiences I've ever had, and it was just through poor leadership.
Yeah, that's rough. Are you so like, yeah, I think you alluded to like the Steve Jobs effect, right? Of just like this giant a-hole style leadership of telling people what to do. They're replaceable and we're going to move forward and we're going to run through you, versus, like get more bees with honey, right?
Yeah,
So that
lead by example.
Yeah.
When I was at NSW, I mean, I would have chiefs and officers like take my trash out just because they wanted to show a little bit of respect. And then because of that, then it all rolls downhill. Then, we're going in there, we'll clean their office, or take care of their equipment, their radio after training or an op or something. It's just that mutual respect and trust that goes a long way.
Yeah, it's understated for sure. 100%. All right. So, Chris, when you were a kid, what did you play? You mentioned N64 a little bit ago. So tell us.
I wasn't I was a gamer in a sense. But racing was my passion. I started racing when I was 5 years old. I ran outlaw carts. I don't know if you've heard of those, but okay, so they're dirt carts with a wing. Search Red Bluff Outlaws. That's where pretty much the outlaw cart deal originated within the US. Red Bluff is like the capital of outlaw kart racing. And then when I turned 14, so still a youth, I moved into sprint cars. We ran 360 wingless sprint cars. And when I turned 16, we moved to 410 wing sprint cars. And then when I was 20, I was racing for a gentleman named John Rector. And by then I knew I wanted to join the Navy, but I was doing the racing thing. And I just knew that if I didn't join now, then I never would. So, and it was, yeah, wouldn't
100 miles an hour. Holy smokes.
So yeah, they're pretty
Wow.
quick. Now, I don't know if you know of like sprint cars, but they are easily the fastest thing on a dirt oval. And so I've experienced both. I've experienced a 410 sprint car with the World of Outlaws, and I've experienced these 500, 450cc carts. This dirt cart has a faster sensation than a full-size sprint car. Like, it is mind-boggling how fast they go. And just how quick, like, 0 to 60 in a matter of a second, 2 seconds, maybe. Yeah.
When you were 5? Did you say you
Well,
were...
yeah, but when I was 5, we ran a flat top Briggs motor, so about 5 to 7 horsepower, quite a bit different.
That's
But
still fast.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I ran asphalt too, which to me, asphalt was scarier because you have no cage and no seatbelt. And luckily, I never flipped one of those. So
That's
yeah, I
incredible.
did a lot of racing as a kid. Okay, video games though. The Ocarina of Time, so Zelda, was my all-time favorite growing up. and of course Mario Kart. I still play Mario Kart. I played online, Mario Kart 8 now. There are some really good racers on there. I will not say I'm the best, but if I invite you over to my house, I will probably beat you.
So we do this for every guest. We without fail is we link what they're doing and what they've done with their lives to the first video games they played. So a dude going 100 miles an hour in a game and in real life gets on one of the baddest crafts in vessels humans have ever invented, shot 50 cal across to bad guys, and Zelda in a world of his own now doing World of Warcraft. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah,
I
the
like that
boats, the Swick boats definitely enticed me to become a Swick. If they had something else that I didn't need a college degree to operate, but the boats, man, I don't know what else to say.
Have you done any of the simulators? Like I know you probably saw Gran Turismo. Have you done any of the sim racing games?
Yes, I did what is it called? iRacing. So I ran race sprint cars in iRacing for a long time. Well, a couple years, not a long time. Did really well at it, but budgeting, those wheels are pretty expensive. The setup is expensive, and I felt like I was out budgeted, so I kind of stuck to World of Warcraft.
Good choice. Good choice.
way cheaper. Yeah.
One
All
of the
right.
It's
other
like-
questions go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if I'm gonna spend 10, 20 grand on a iRacing setup, I'm just gonna go buy a race car.
That makes sense. And you're brave enough to race rather than be racing from the safety of home. So that's a different
Yeah, I'm that is very true. I'm crew chiefing for my buddy Cam. He's getting into the 450 outlaw cart deal. And what's the how do I say this without okay, we'll just say like courage is half of going fast. So skill's half of it, but being able to go full bore on the cushion on a razor's edge, in between cars is a whole other form of courage. So
this is nuts. I
that's the
didn't know about
perfect
this.
flow. What I was going to ask was Ken and I, we always ask about flow state, and at what point in your life have you experienced flow state, and how would you describe it?
Well, that is kind of what I was trying to articulate earlier about video games, bouncing, deployments, racing. Like those are all of those experiences, especially when you're really competitive or you're really focused on something, like that is the flow state. And I love the feeling of that, where I can go through situations in that state of mind, and when it's complete and done, I won't even be able to tell you what happened. Like everything was just all natural. Primal, it's that feeling is so great, and I think it's good for your soul too. Like that's why I'm so adamant about video games. And even still, some of my family has a bad idea of video games, but it's like anything. If you participate with a reasonable amount of time, you are not neglecting parts of your life to play video games. That's big, but it is a way to get into a flow state. I'm not good at PvP and WoW, but like when I am just focused on that, like that's a good sensation.
Fantastic. So happy to have that.
Yeah, nice job, April. Remember
That's just what I'm doing my research on, Chris, actually, is figuring out a way to convince other colleges to invest in esports programs because of the path to mental health, the path to community, the path to flow state, the path to practice.
Yeah. The other thing, especially with the education system, is video games, as long as you're not overindulging, such a high or less risk of injury. That's, one of the things that I deal with is traumatic brain injury. So, one of the things I struggle with is memory. And that's just years of football, wrestling, racing, injuries in the military. Video games is a very low impact sport, especially when you start getting older. Yeah.
We've never
Absolutely.
heard that, April. We've never heard that statement. That's actually a really very interesting statement.
I love that.
And I empathize. I came out with a traumatic brain injury and I used games to recover. So that's great. Low impact sport. That's great. Man, I had a really good question on that.
Well, yeah, because when I got out, I was in a wheelchair for 4 years,
Mm.
Oh,
and I was before then, I was hiking, snowboarding, skateboarding. Like I was doing all of like those were my hobbies, were physical activities, and then I get out, and all of a sudden, I can't do any of this. I had to find something to occupy myself. So yeah, I mean, gaming went hand in hand with something to do, and yeah, I don't. There's more to gaming than just what people think.
And proving that is what I'm working on right now. And one of the pushbacks that I've gotten from academics is really people dug in about esports not being a sport and not being able to see the
Oh,
components.
it is so dynamic. It is such a mental. Now it is physical in a way, but it is a very dynamic mental. It's like a chess game, but there's so many variables. Um, the really good guys, I'm talking like player versus player type of stuff, but the really top end guys, they're like S tier geniuses. It's actually it's very impressive. And I mean, that's why esports is one of the fastest growing sports in the world. It's just so dynamic. I mean, if you look at fans of football, um, they're the same way. They absorb so much information. There's so much data out there now. Um, it goes hand in hand. We have become such a knowledge-based society that you can find that kind of skill sets in just about anything.
And memory, I love that you mentioned memory, like people who play League of Legends have memorized the interactions between 150 champions, and they can
Yeah.
tell you what weapons work best, and they can play while dealing with their chat on the side on Twitch. And it's just the
Yeah,
mental exercise of
it
watching
is.
these elite players is
Yeah, it really is a mental exercise, and I appreciate that.
yeah, the level of like homework that has to be done to be really good at these games, unbelievable. And the coaching ecosystem that has sprung up. And we've had so many people on the show who are part of this tunnel, not tunnel, but funnel that goes to the top, from like recruiting
Hmm.
at the young age to building the skill sets to, okay, you can't game forever. So you're going to either develop or you're going to use these skills in IT or data science or whatever. Let's make sure that it gives you a soft landing into your career. And so
Yeah.
it's fascinating. So one of the parting questions here, Chris, is what's on the horizon for you, if you're able to talk about it? Like, what do you have? You said you need a game plan. You got to have attainable goals, right?
Hmm.
And you got to be part of something great, give back. So what's sort of like on your plate for the next 5-10
So
years or
yeah,
so?
yeah, that's actually precisely right. So I've been doing like a 5-year plan. I'm about 2 years into this initial plan that I have. So I just bought a house. It is pretty far outside of city limits. I've got like a 40-minute commute, but in the position that I was, that was my best game plan to not be homeless. So thankfully, I had the VA loan, which I used. So in the next 5 years, what I would like to do is sell my home, move closer to where I work and the kids. By that time, I'm gonna have a driving daughter getting ready to go to college. So that's gonna be interesting. Now, I don't know if I don't know what she's going to do. She wants to be a lawyer right now. She wants to go to San Francisco for college. I'm okay with moving a little closer to San Francisco, but I'm kind of on standby just to see what happens. Honestly, right now, my ultimate goals are to keep my head up above water, keep on top of my bills, work, try to save money. I have a lot of plans that I want to do around the house. I would like to kind of start up a small, not a farm, but I want to have some goats, pigs, chickens. So yeah, just working towards that. Like that is the end of my 5-year goal. Depending on where things are at the end of 5 years will kind of determine what I want to do for the next 5 years.
That sounds like a farm to me. That's fantastic. You're gonna have
Yeah.
goat yoga and all sorts of.
Oh, I've seen it.
We cannot get an appointment at those places. They sell out within an
That's
hour.
crazy. I know, that's so crazy to me. No, I want them to so that they take care of the yard. I'm tired of weed eating.
I have one last question, if that's okay. Unless April, you want one more?
I always
me?
have one more
Okay,
question.
all right. Just one last one for me, Chris. So there's like this phenomenon that folks go in the military to get combat experience, and then they kind of withdraw a little bit, right? They go out in the outskirts of the town. They get a farm with goats, and so like, can you just talk about that? Is that a thing, or is this a few folks? And what's the allure? If you can just help folks understand.
Peace.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is when I'm off work and I come out here, I have peace. I don't have to hear sirens. I don't have to hear the commotion. I can walk out in my backyard and watch the sunset or sunrise. It's just peace. That's the biggest thing.
Thanks, Chris.
I love that. So my final question would be about, again, bringing that peace to those who really are in the dark and can't see the light. And of course, Ken and I and our other partners believe that we can help through gaming. And
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if you could speak to that. That'd be fantastic.
I absolutely agree. Everybody's situation is different. You have to get yourself into a position to where you can game, but it really just depends. But gaming is, the flow state, community. If you have brain injuries, like it is a developmental, it's like a training program to kind of develop certain skills. Some folks do use gaming for PTSD. And I just want to reiterate though, because everything is within, you can't go overboard with it. It's like alcohol, smoking, video gaming has its pros and cons like anything else, but the best way I can say is that it can be used as a great tool set. And I really hope, bigger folks with bigger brains than me get involved.
And deeper pockets than me. That's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so very much. You're fantastic.
Oh man, no, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I'm honored to be able to shine a positive light on this whole program. So thank you guys.
Of course, Kristen, it's great to see. You're still right on the end of going through the process, right? And
Oh yeah,
we're not all fully a success story, right? We didn't break in all, we didn't write books and make millions of dollars. And so it's really great to talk to someone that we can relate to who's still in the thick of it and still, working our way out of it. And
Mhm.
it's very refreshing. And we honor you for you to come on the show and talk about it. And we're blessed to have you. And I think you're a wonderful guy. And
Thank you.
your daughters have a killer dad to look up to and to have guidance from. And it's so hard to find really, really good dads that care. You're like, yeah, I don't mind. I think moving towards San Francisco. I mean, like, who talks like that? So I think it's great what you're doing, and I can see that as another fellow great dad. So
Appreciate it.
I honor you for that, and thank you for coming on the show. And we will have you again in the next coming year to see what awesome stuff that you've been up to. And thank you for volunteering with the Warrior Gamer Foundation as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you guys again.
Warrior Gamer Headquarters Podcast. Out.